what happens when you bring your friendships together and then create a space that's accepting, non-judgmental, where we can just really dive into those matters of our faith and talk about those things of the heart that really matter to us.
Good morning, ladies. How many's wiping away tears? I know, I've watched it so many times, I still can't get through it. And I'll tell you why I can't get through it. Because every time I look at it, I think about my relationship with Christ, and I think about your relationship with Him. And you know, He is our dance partner, and He is our Heavenly Father, and He's the one that calls us. And there's so many times when it has to be serious, and we're going through things, and we're doing that slow dance. But then there are those times when He just wants us to break out and do something fun and crazy. And I love those moments, don't you? I want to dance, don't you all? I want to dance in Him in that freedom. How many of you would have dared do something? Moms, hey. How many of you would dare do something like that? You would? Yay! It's all on this side. Well, a couple. Well, let's get started this morning. It's so good to have everybody. We have so much going on. I still see people wiping away tears. It's a wonderful video, isn't it? I look around and I say, I'm so glad y'all here. Wendy's mom's here. Mumsy's here from California. Do we have any other visitors from away? Your sister? Hi, sister. Welcome. Susie. Well, good. It's so good to have everybody. I see how you all are piling up, and it's great. Well, let's get started this morning. I wanted to start with that video because today we're going to be talking about dancing and the freedom to dance and what courage it takes sometimes for us to dance through this thing called life, and how I believe that Jesus says to all of us, I hope you'll dance. Jackie, hey. I hope you'll dance. I hope you'll dance. And it made me think of that scripture that we're also familiar with in Ecclesiastes. We talked about this a lot last time, where he says there's a time for everything in our lives. There's a season for every activity under heaven. Remember that? And he goes on and he talks about all the different times that we'll face. A time to live, a time to be born, a time to uproot, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to build up, a time to tear down. And it gets all the way down to a time to mourn and a time to dance. It's a reminder, like we talked about so many times, that life is filled with all these different emotions and all these different things that are going to come into our life. But it's a reminder that we talked about last session, that between that first breath and our last breath is what? That dash. And my question is that I'm always asking myself, am I dancing on my dash? Am I finding joy on that dash? And that's what this session is about. The everyday treasures, learning to really be in the middle, be present in this moment, and finding out what is the reason, what's the treasure, why, how can I dance today? How are we finding that time to really dance? Now, dance there in that Hebrew meaning doesn't mean, the twist or the tango or even the YMCA kind of thing. It actually, if you go back, it means to leap, skip, and spring with joy. To leap, skip, and spring with joy. So throughout the Bible, where God is telling us to dance, what He's really saying to us, I believe, is that dancing is the freedom that we can have to say yes to life. That we can wake up every morning and say yes to whatever that day holds. That we can say yes to the treasures that God has left along the way for us, and we can say yes to His invitations, and that we can find a way to move about each day with this freedom. And joy, when he talks about joy there, it's not an absence of pain, problems, doubts, confusions, diagnoses, death, all the devastations that are along our dash. No, what he's saying there, girls, is joy, is that deep, settled, resolved confidence we have in God. The freedom that he can bring to every day of our life, into every relationship, into relationships, into our offices, into the hospital rooms, onto the soccer fields, wherever we are. And to know the true treasure is that knowing God is can be in every part of our lives, that he can stand right there with us, that he is our ultimate dance partner. And not only there to just be with us, but to sustain us. Remember, morning by morning, to sustain us and to make all things, he says, those things that may have been meant to hurt us, those ways that we've gone off course, that joy is the freedom that he gives us to embrace and live without restrictions of what has happened and to look forward to what can happen, the potential of every day, realizing that every hurt, shame, loss, every condescending look, every disappointment, every devastation, every mistake and mess up, abuse, everything that has happened to us has gotten us to this point. And look around, ladies. We have made it this far. Think about the things that you have walked through on your dash. And you have made it. You are here. We're sitting here. And some of us have walked through some really hard things. But yet God says, but you can dance. You can still find that joy. And when I hear that, I think, but how? In all situations. Do you all ever ask yourself that? But how? Because I want to dance. Don't you all? I want to dance. God tells us it's refusing to allow anything to stop us, to keep on keeping on. So if we're dancing, he tells us, he asks us, why not? Why are we not dancing? You know, my boys, when they were little, used to love to ride their bicycles. That's what they wanted to do. If they weren't playing sports, they wanted to be on their bicycles. They were always on the bicycles. So when rainy days came, it could be really devastating. Until I told them, go ride in the rain. It was like, really? We can do that? Yes, go ride in the rain. And it was wonderful. Well, I read somewhere recently, and I bet you've heard this, where it says, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And that's what God is compelling us to do in this study, is to learn how to dance, even though we might not be surrounded by sunshine and rainbows, that we can find our place and how to do that. And what I'm learning is that we are figuring out ways to dance in the rain, I think. I think each and every one of us are learning the secret of, okay, it's not a perfect situation, but I can find some joy. But I think the next key that we need to really unlock in this series is a big, huge truth today. And this is the truth, girls. The rain is not your fault. The rain in your life is not your fault. We're not dancing because we are feeling condemned and we're taking on so much guilt. And we as women do that well, don't we? Don't we do that so well? Someone can fall 2 blocks up the street in New York and somehow we'll figure out a way that it's our fault. Can't we? It's like, oh, I should have been there to warn her. Can't we? If the alarm clock doesn't go off in the morning, whose fault is it? If the toast burns, whose fault is it? If the boys don't get a good grade at school, even though they're in college, whose fault is it? I should have done better when they were in preschool, right? It's my fault that I didn't teach them those great study skills. we always find a way to blame ourselves. You know what the 4 major guilt groups are? Food, love, career, and mothers. We just pile it on, don't we? Just heap it on. It's my fault. Let me just carry the load. Do you know that most girls don't report rape today because they feel like that it's their fault? We wear it, we take it on, we hide it, we carry it, we put on a big smile and say, oh, praise the Lord. Give those Sunday school answers, don't we? We know what we're supposed to say, so don't dare go off that Christian dialogue, right? Guilt. When we work, we feel guilt when we work. We feel guilty when we stay home. We feel guilty when we go to the gym. We feel guilty if we don't go to the gym. We feel guilty if one of our boys has an injury. We feel guilty if there's a bad diagnosis in our family. We feel guilty if there's a divorce. We feel guilty if the relationship falls apart. We feel guilty. We wear it, we stuff it, and we don't dance, even though we have such a longing to be dancing where everyone can see us. When we have these feelings, ladies, it's so hard for us to not only see the treasure, but to enjoy the everyday treasure. And the reason that it's so hard is because everything we look through this lens of condemnation. We look at it through regret. Oh, I could have done so much better. Or shame. Oh, why didn't I do that? Fear and guilt. It's a very personal and it's a very private condemnation that we carry around on ourselves every day. Think for a moment. When God invites you to do something, what is probably one of the first things that come to your mind? Me? Right? Oh, but Donna could do it so much better, God. Think about all the desires you've had to invite people to coffee, which a lot of people have. But what's the first thing you think? What are they going to think? Oh my gosh, they live so close to me. Do they hear me yelling when the windows are open? I thought that the other day. I was literally screaming at the dogs. But then I started thinking, oh, what if they think I'm screaming at Lee? But sometimes I do. So, I mean, what, you know? I'm not your typical Sunday school person. I am real. Sometimes way too real. But I dance. I have learned the secret to dancing. And that's what we want to talk about today. Because, girls, we hear so many lies all the time, don't we? We're consumed by lies and all these different voices all the time that say, unworthy, shame on you, who do you think you are? It's your fault. If you had done better, if you had been there, if only, if only, if only. And I love my favorite one. But Kim, you knew better. I hear that so many times in my mind. You know better. Ah. But when we hear it, do we believe it? Do we begin to harbor it and think, oh, my secret is so much worse than your secret? No one will ever understand. What if they find out? What if they know the real me? Do you all deal with these lies and voices and secrets? You better be saying yes. Don't make me feel like I'm the only one up here. When we accept those lies, you know what we say to ourselves? I'm so damaged. I'm so messed up. I can't. It's too late for me. And then so many times, ladies, we will relinquish our lives and we will allow these to be bondage that bind us, that keep us from dancing. And then we begin to tell ourselves, well, this is life. Might as well get used to it. Que sera, sera. And that's where the masking comes in. That's where all the Sunday school answers come in. That's where all that perfect little talk comes in. And that's what we're defeating in here. Because of the honest dialogue, that is what begins to set us free to really dance. Because if we really want truth this morning and treasure from all this that we're talking about, God has so much good news. And the good news we know is from His Word, which we've discovered is what? Alive and active in our lives, aligning our minds, the trash talk that we hear, to His truth. So there's an activity going on all the time around us, drawing us back, compelling us to dance, so to speak, with His Word and with His truth. So from His treasure truth this morning, I want you just to close your eyes for a minute, because I want to read a treasure to you this morning that will just warm your heart. It says in 1 John 3:20, if your heart is condemning you this morning, if your heart, way down deep, and no one knows about it, is condemning you, God is greater than your heart, and He knows most everything. No, He knows everything. Did that feel like just a warm cloth on a cold, wet day all over your heart? He says He knows everything, girls. He knows us inside out. He knows our heart. So He's saying that secret mistake that maybe you've made, He's saying, I'm bigger than that last mistake. That's enough to make me want to dance right there. He says if your heart is saying that you can't because you don't look the part, you don't dress the part, you're not the right size, He says, oh, for heaven's sakes, I'm so much more than a number or a dress size. If our heart condemns us because of the degree we didn't get, or the car we can't drive, or the house that we don't live in, or the husband we never could find, or the grandkids we don't think we're going to ever have, God says, but you alone, you are the apple of my eye this morning. And I desire to give you the delights of your heart. He says if our heart is bound by missteps that we've taken, the choices we've made or haven't made, or the thoughts that we would never, the words that we thought we'd never say, God compels us as He reaches out His hand as our ultimate dance partner, and He says, come talk to me. He says, before you can say, forgive me, it's been forgiven. Pretty awesome, huh? Girls, we have all made mistakes. Life has unfolded in many ways like we never thought it was going to unfold. And it was not because God was mad at us. It's not because He's condemning us. He's not sitting in heaven zapping us with diseases or causing bad things to happen. He doesn't want us to miss out on today. He wants us to dance in the midst of it because He's our dance partner. Each day on that dash is 24 hours that He's given to us that we'll never be able to relive. And He's saying, in the midst of it, I'm there. In the midst of it, I'm here. He weeps with us. He sits with us. He walks with us. He talks with us. And He's there for us. And girls, if we're not dancing, it's simply because we haven't reached out to take His hand the way He wants us to. Because He's always extending it. So many times we're bound by our own thinking. See if you agree with one of these three things. Number one, the things that I used to say to myself as well, if I just feel bad long enough and sit here and punish myself long enough, then one of these days God can forgive me. If I just punish myself long enough, if I'll just be miserable, if I just sit at home alone and let everybody else go have all the good times, if I just sit here and punish myself long enough, then I'll get over this guilt. Or, if I work myself stupid, I can get over this. That was a bad word when my boys were growing up. We never said the S word. I remember the boys came in one time, he goes, Mom, that guy just said the S word to me. It was stupid. But that's the best word I know to describe this. We work ourselves tirelessly and endlessly. I'll bake all the cookies. I'll clean all the toilets. Just let me keep working so I can earn God's grace in my life. Because I know if I just do one more thing, I'm not going to have this feeling of guilt anymore. But then this is my favorite one right here, sarcastically speaking. If I can just figure out a way to forgive myself, then I can move on. If I can just forgive myself. Ladies, if we could forgive ourselves, why would we need Jesus? We can't do what God alone can do. We were not created, equipped, or called to forgive ourselves. That is another one of those misquotes that we talked about the first week of the session. We have not earned the right to forgive ourselves. I was told over and over and over again, Kim, you've just got to learn how to forgive yourself and move on. And I will tell you, for years I tried. Every way I knew to forgive myself, I tried. I did it all. But then about the time I would feel like I had forgiven myself, you know what would happen? I would wake up one morning feeling condemned again. There it was, slapping my face all over again, and I didn't know what to do with it. I couldn't get past my own mirror to look out the window. And what that means was I knew God had a great invitation for me, just like he does each and every one of us. I knew there was there was a longing in my heart. But I couldn't get past my mirror because every time I would try to look beyond what God was saying to me, my mirror was stopping me with all the voices and all the condemnation and all the guilt and all the regret. Well, of course, I figured out a way to deal with it and avoid God's calling. You know what I did? I just tell people how busy I was. I'm so busy. I can't do that. I'm too busy. Just so busy. Sure made me feel good, and it got you off my back. Right? I'm so busy. Here's the truth this morning, girls. It's real that our hearts condemn us. We're women. That's what happens. It is so real. And it's also real that many of us try to find justifications. Now, and here's the other side of it. There are a lot of things our heart condemns us for that we don't need to be condemned for. My past was nothing I needed to condemn myself for. But since then, there are a lot of things I've done that I could really be condemned for. Because I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to mess up. I mean, when was the last time you were with someone and you began to talk and then you went home and went, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that? Have you? And it's like, oh, you might as well just tie a noose around my throat and hang me up. I feel, you know? So I'm not saying that there aren't things, but what God is saying is don't let it hold you hostage. Don't let it stop you from dancing and doing what I've called you to do today. Don't get so focused on that you're forgetting the joy of the moment. If you mess up, fess up and keep on going. One of the great things that I love about this group is that we all acknowledge the fact that we are not perfect. We all acknowledge from week to week that none of us have all the answers, that we come here to talk and to work things through. But I think the one thing that we don't see is how our imperfections that we hold inside us, how it's really hurting us, how the unworthiness, how the words of unusable, the torment, how we feel unfulfilled is eating away at us all the time. And then what really ties a double knot in it is not only how we feel about ourselves, we look around and go, what if she knew, and what if she knew? And I'm talking about maybe things that go back to grade school and high school and college, and marriage and yesterday that just pile up and have been piling up. But then God says, no, I want you to dance. Today's a dancing day. He says when our hearts condemn us, hold us hostage, bind us, he says, I'm greater than that. I am so much greater than that. And he looks at us and he goes, I find you worthy, and I find you worthy, and I want you to dance, and I want you to dance, and I want you to show off with my dance, and I want you to live in freedom, and I want you to say yes, and I want you to quit saying no. And he's saying, this is life. This is 24 hours on that dash that we're never going to go back. And some ways our hearts may be broken, but there's treasure along the way. And he's wanting us to see him standing there in the midst of whatever life has unfolded today. He says in Isaiah, I am he who blots out everything. And I remember all that bad no more, and neither do I want you to remember it. He's saying, don't miss your life. Dance. It is his choice to forgive us. It is his gift to forgive us, and there's nothing too big or beyond his willingness or his ability to forgive. I know many of you right now are just making a list of all the things you feel guilty for. I mean, we could just rack it up. It's like last week when we were talking about if we could be slot machines, it'd be like the grand prize going off, because that's what it would be like. I mean, I can see it in your eyes. It only takes one who's dealt with guilt to see, we see it. And we see it just racking up. But God says now, this morning, you've heard the truth. Are you going to believe it? Are you going to dance? Can you dance for me in the middle of whatever is going on? Can you walk away from it? Are you willing to leave it behind? Are you willing to make me bigger than that? Are you willing to say, right now, I'm going to look to him, and I'm going to be okay with him, and I'm going to go out lighter and feeling freer, and like the woman that he created my soul to be. I want to dance. Do you want to dance this morning? Do you really want to dance? I know y'all think I'm going to break out in some kind of music right now, don't you? I'm really not. I'm brave, but I'm not that brave. But what I am going to do is let you go to table talk, and your first question is, who's willing to do a dance? So we're going to start practicing. Girls, the main thing about today's lesson, go to table talk and we'll talk in a little bit. Hello, ladies. How was your table talk time today, or your conversation in your living room or in your dental office, wherever you are? Today was a very deep subject, wasn't it? It's one that touches each and every one of our hearts, and we all relate to it because as women, we know what it's like to take the blame for everything that happens in life. And that's okay. That's who we are, as long as we know where to take that guilt and that condemnation to. We've got to remember that God says that he does not condemn us, and that even when we condemn ourselves, that he's larger than that. He does not want that for us in our lives. That is not our best life that he wants us to live. He says that he came to not only give us life, but the abundant life. And that abundant life, ladies, is the life that it's not void of hurts. It's not void of pain. It's not void of teenage problems or not being able to make the mortgage payments sometimes. It's all of that is life. But what he is saying is, I'm not condemning you for that. I know where you are. I know the longing of your heart. I know how you want to dance. And he is giving us the freedom in him to dance. He's saying, whatever is on your mind, whatever is on your heart, just come to me. Talk to me. He does not want us to see him as God who sits in the sky and condemns and zaps and gives diseases and causes falls and bankruptcies. That's not him. He wants to be the one, the treasure of the truth, the one that we bring into each and every one of those circumstances. He wants to be our anchor that holds us steadfast through all those. So today in your talk, I hope it was real talk. I hope it was not Sunday school answers of all the things that we're supposed to say, and I bet it wasn't. I bet you really had some really good talk today. But I want you to remember, Jeremiah 33:1 says this. He says, God is always passing by us. He's always extending his hand. He's always there for whatever we need. So ladies, many times, we run to Jesus for whatever the need is. And sometimes it's every day. Sometimes it's every hour. But the freedom in today's message, what makes us free to dance is knowing that he's there and that he is always has our back. He loves us, he adores us, and he wants us to dance in that freedom today. And knowing that he can readily handle any situation that's going in our lives. So to end today's session, what we're going to do is watch a video, and your host is going to turn that on. And I hope that you'll just sit and look at this and remember, this is always our answer, and this is always something we can do to bring the joy back into life and to dance through every day of every situation. I love you, girls. I don't want you to feel guilty, but what's most important is God doesn't want you to feel guilty. Your life is too important. He has fabulous things for you to do. He has people that you need to be talking to. He needs to have you clear-minded and focused on him and ready to dance through life today. Have a good day, girls. I'll see you back next week.